Welcome into the Landon Tengwall Show, brought to you by the Student Bookstore, Downtown State College, where you should get all your Penn State merch needs and your Landon Tengwall Show t-shirts. Link will be in the comments below to that. 100% of the proceeds go to the Dawkins Family Foundation. All right, Penn State falls to Iowa, 24-25. Before we get into this thing and dissect it and discuss everything that actually went on within the game, I do want to say I'm incredibly proud of this team. I'm proud of Terry Smith. I'm proud of the way that these guys fought after a very tough, hard, long week for them. There was not a question of effort on the field. We're going to get into the execution and where that was lacking, but I think put that aside, Terry Smith said, hey, I want to put a product out there that Penn Staters are proud of. That you can say, yes, I didn't see anybody giving half effort. I saw everybody giving it everything they had, and I think we can say that about Saturday night in Iowa. So I am proud of that. Like I said, as a Letterman, alumni fans, continue to support these guys. They deserve it. They are going to finish this year out hard. And like I said, tip of the cap to Terry Smith. We saw him take full accountability in the postgame presser of what needs to be fixed. And honestly, guys, like it's refreshing. Like Terry Smith, I love his pressers because they're not some like media trained, he's giving the real answers. He's like, if he gets asked a question, he's like, yeah, this was bad and this needs to be fixed and it's my fault and we're going to make sure it gets fixed. I love that. I love that as a Letterman. I love that as a fan, anybody. That is great. And that's the type of leadership that you need right now if you are Penn State. Now, I feel much better pride-wise walking away from this game. I think most of you guys can agree with that. Let me know in the comments if you feel differently. But with that being said, it was still incredibly frustrating to turn on the film this morning and see what was put on tape. So I watched both of the all 22 films for the offense and the defense. That is why you should hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying the content you will not get anywhere else, and it is free, no paywall, just Tengwall, baby. We're going to do a full Ethan Grunkmeyer film breakdown tomorrow as well. That'll be out on my channel tomorrow morning, so be on the lookout for that. We're going to, you know what? We'll just preview it right now. Why don't we just get into it and tell you kind of a little bit of what you're going to see on that film breakdown. Ethan Grunkmeyer went into a hostile environment in his first ever career start, had some ups, probably a little bit more downs than ups, but he had some decent moments. And I was actually impressed with his ability to go through reads, because a lot of times that's what quarterbacks struggle with, to confidently look through, okay, I'm looking at my first read. All right, not there. Let's go to 2. Okay, let's go to 3. And there were times that he did that very well. There were also times that he didn't, but that's kind of to be expected in his first career start. Now, as far as the poise in the pocket for Ethan Grunkmeyer, it was super hit or miss. There were times, if you think early on, like on the 4th down, there were times where he was fantastic. And it was like, wow, he's showing some, like I said, some real poise and ability to, shake guys, avoid, really be fluid in his movement. And there were some other times where he would be on his first read, he'd feel a little bit of pressure, and he would just get crazy happy feet and just bounce around, and he had the intentional grounding. And so that was kind of his day, and it kind of encapsulated. Like, it was a lot of hot and cold, which, as I said, to be expected for a young guy. Same thing with his mechanics. There was times where his mechanics looked great, and there was times that they really struggled. My biggest issue as a whole with what I saw on offense and really how the quarterback situation was handled was just the coaching in general. So number one, as I said, you come into a hostile environment, first ever career start, you need to get your guy in rhythm. You need to get Grunkmeyer comfortable, get him going. You proceed to give Jackson Smolik 11 snaps at quarterback. Now, this is nothing against Jackson Smolik. I'm a fan of his, good friend of mine. I was even somewhat rooting for him to be able to get this backup job. But being real for a second, giving the backup quarterback 11 snaps when you have your backup quarterback is now the starter, I don't think I can think of one thing worse to do for the rhythm of your now starting quarterback to give the new backup quarterback 11 snaps. Like, I truly can't think of something worse than that. And I'm not saying that Kotonicki was trying to mess them up, because no coach ever is doing that, but that is borderline sabotage by doing that. I mean, that's just not cool. I mean, for reference, Bo Prabula, he never got that many quarterback package plays as the backup in a single game. The most he ever got where he was just the backup. I'm not talking garbage time where he got in, or if Drew got hurt, like where Bo was just the backup for the entire game and Drew started the entire game. He got 8 plays. That was the most. I think it was UCLA last year. Smolik got 11 in this game. And I don't think Smolik is not as athletic as Bo Prabula. So I even made that tweet. I'm like, why are we treating Jackson Smolik like he's Bo Prabula? It didn't make a lot of sense. Every single time that he was in, too, it was a run. So there was no secret. There was no keeping the defense on their toes. And I will say, watching early on, when Jackson Smolik was in, whenever he handed off to Katron Allen, it was actually, there were some decent gains, but very quickly the Iowa defense figured out, hey, it's only a run if 14 is in. Let's collapse on this, and it just completely went to crap after that. What makes it worse is Smolik fumbles the ball, obviously. Shout out to Kyron Hudson for jumping on that thing. Daniel Gallen then reports that Smolik was seen after the game with a heavy wrap/cast on his left hand. That's why you don't do that. So now your backup quarterback is injured. If Grunt goes down, Jack Lambert is your quarterback. No, not Jack Lambert from the Steel Curtain defense of the 70s. Just Jack Lambert, the quarterback. Listen, no shade on my guy, but I don't want to see Jack Lambert be the quarterback for Penn State in meaningful snaps this year. Overall, just watching this offense just this season, having watched every single rep multiple times, it feels like the passing game doesn't have a real plan. It feels like they're just going out there and it's like, hey, let's just run some routes. Let's just see what happens. You're not going out there to actually attack the defense. It's like, all right, let's see what happens. And it feels like they're almost playing defense, but on offense. That's what the passing game feels like. There's no confidence in it. There's absolutely no confidence in it. And the play calling shows that. And you can say, yeah, it's because Grunk was in and it was a backup quarterback. It was the same thing with Drew Aller, though. And honestly, as much as we can dive into the wide receivers not creating enough separation, which is true, and also I felt like there was a lack of effort by some of them on certain plays, it's hard to ignore the pattern of wide receivers not succeeding at Penn State, but succeeding elsewhere. So you got guys who transferred out who were not succeeding here at Penn State, and they go and they succeed elsewhere. You got a lot of examples of basically every single transfer portal wide receiver to come into Penn State, having success elsewhere, coming to Penn State, and now they are suffering. And if I'm any of the three transfer portal wide receivers, I mean, I'm pissed, guys. I'm pissed. All of them were having, a really good production elsewhere, and you come to Penn State, and this is basically their last year for all three, and this is what you get. I mean, a passing game that is truly just inept, to put it honestly. There's no plan to attack the defenses vertically. Not at all. I mean, this game with Ethan Grunkmeyer, that was the most that we've thrown it deep. That was the most we've actually stretched a defense vertically the entire year. And so it's just, I don't know, man. It's hard for me to watch that and say that these guys are being put in positions to win, because I don't feel like they are. And when you don't have a passing game and you aren't able to stretch a team vertically, what does that do to the rushing attack? Yeah, the offensive line hasn't been great, hasn't been close to what we expected them to be, but that doesn't help them at all. That makes it a lot harder on the run game. Now, speaking of wide receivers, Kobe Howard, 1 target, 1 reception. And it was a great route, too. I mean, it was beautiful. You're going to see it. I even put it on my Twitter. So if you want to go see, I did a little quick minute film breakdown on that on my Twitter at Landon Tengwall. He provides a spark for you. And like I said, he set the DB up perfectly. He knew what the DB was doing. He set him up outside and then boom, came inside on a dig, on an in route. And it was beautiful. Grunk stepped up in the pocket, saw him come free, boom, fired it to him, first down. It doesn't make sense. I'm going to say that a lot in this video. It doesn't make sense that a guy provides a spark, gets open, and is creating some separation, which is what you are severely lacking at wide receiver, and he only plays 5 total snaps. I mean, come on. I get it. You're trying to get the guys that are in their last year. You need to get them to the NFL, and you're trying to get them balls. But, if it's not working, this is still a business. You got to try to win. If someone else gives you a better opportunity to win, he's got to play. It's just that simple. And like I said, my biggest problem was how many times I'm sitting there, offense and defense, watching the tape, and I'm just saying it doesn't make sense. Singleton, the shovel pass to Singleton, doesn't work once, gets shut down. Okay, that's fine. Just scrap it. Oh no, come back on 3rd and 4 and run the same thing to him, and guess what? It gets absolutely blown up. Grunk has to scramble out of the pocket and throw it at the feet of Hudson because Hudson's blocking because Hudson thinks it's a shovel pass to Singleton. So, that doesn't make sense. 3rd and goal at the 10-yard line. Touchdown, and the game is over on one of those, like that second to last final drive for Penn State. You run a quarterback draw. Come on, man. Come on. By the way, that's the second week in a row where the game is on the line, 3rd and 10, and Kotelnicki calls a quarterback draw. Second week in a row. Mind-boggling, incomprehensible is what I would call that. Yes, SAT words, guys. I'm a broadcast journalism major. Didn't have to take the SAT, actually, thanks to COVID. So I'm digging deep here. I'm really digging deep here for you guys on these words to describe my discontent with the Penn State play calling at the moment. The final play, which I will show you guys on film tomorrow, it was a sprint out pass to the left, and that was the wide side of the field. Now, the reason why we ran that, I will tell you, and I'll also show this, we ran the same exact play to the right on 3rd and 2, and I think around the second quarter, and we got it. We converted on that, and it was wide open. So I think that's why we called it again. There was a few problems, though. We called it to the left. Like I said, we ran it to the right earlier. When you are asking a quarterback that is right-handed to roll out to the left, naturally you're already putting him at a disadvantage because, and that's okay at like certain times, but why would we pick a play that puts our guy at a disadvantage on the most important play of the game? Now that doesn't make sense because he has to roll left, he has to run to the left like this, and to throw the ball, he then has to completely get his hips back around to here and then fire it. So disadvantage there, and then the real problem, people are asking, what happened with the blitz? Safety came flying in. Nolan Rucci did not get into his gap quick enough because we were running sprint out protection, meaning the whole offensive line is just running to the left. Nolan Rucci missed that block, and then Grunk saw him coming free, so Grunk could not continue to roll left. He had to stop, pause, come all the way back right, and Pena tried to get open, and Grunk tried to give him an opportunity, but obviously it did not work. I will say the play was there. Like the guy, it was Ross coming across into the flat. He was open. And if we would have been able to get it to him, he probably would have gotten the first down. He actually didn't run the route kind of deep enough because it was a flat route. But once again, not putting our guys in great situations to win. And then there is the lack of execution. Now, the passing game as a whole is just inadequate. It really is. That's a perfect way to describe it. It doesn't make sense most of the time. Shout out to Tyler Donahue for this stat. I think this kind of puts it all in perspective. Penn State quarterbacks, meaning Drew Aller and Ethan Grunkmeyer, have had under 70 yards passing in the first half in all 4 Big Ten games. In 3 out of the 4 games, it was under 50 yards passing. A clear issue that I'm not sure how you fix except in one way. All right, some other notes on the offense. That it was on first down where I mentioned Grunk on 3rd and 10 at the goal line or 3rd and goal at the 10-yard line where we ran that quarterback draw. On first down, Grunk was rolling out. He hit Trevor Pena. The ball was low. Pena dropped for it. It did hit Pena in the hands, in the chest. You got to catch those. I know it wasn't the perfect ball. Need you to catch those. If you catch that, the game is over. All right, run game. Kaytron Allen doing Kaytron Allen things. 28 carries. We've been waiting to see that for him. Give him that amount of carries, especially with where we're at right now. Give him 30 carries. I mean, you got to be careful. You don't want to run your guy into the ground, but that's part of the good thing about Kaytron Allen is for so long he was splitting carries. Let him be the workhorse. Let him show what he can do. At least help someone get their draft stock up at this point. 145 yards, 2 touchdowns. Keep giving Kaytron Allen the football. Offensive line, probably as a whole, the best game I've seen the offensive line play this year, especially against a good Iowa front 7. Still at times, I mentioned the Nolan Rucci play at the end. There's some struggles in pass pro. TJ Shanahan got beat a couple times. The run game was definitely better. And I think actually Kotelnicki did a couple things in the run scheme that created a little bit more space and allowed the offensive linemen to move a little bit more. So I thought that was great. Still not creating the movement that we should be with this offensive line, but still, like I said, it was the best that I've seen this year. So I am happy to see that progression. It looks like they're playing with a little bit more fire too than we have seen up to this point. Venga was out yesterday. Terry Smith expects him to be back for Ohio State, so that'll be good to get him back. He is the best offensive lineman on this squad. Tight ends, the blocking in general right now not great, not great. I'm not sure what changed from last year. I mean, obviously, there is one obvious that basically the best tight end in the NFL was on our roster last year. But there's been a real decline just as a whole. I think Luke Reynolds has struggled with blocking, and there was times where Rappleyea and Dinkins had their bright spots, but it was also a lot of misses for really every single tight end. So there's not that same fire from the group that I've seen in years past when I was blocking next to Theo Johnson and Brenton Strange and Tyler Warren, where there was that want to just bury dudes. And I saw it from Khalil Dinkins last year, but we just haven't really seen that this year. And so, I think part of it is just kind of where the season has went. You guys have lost a little bit of fire, if you just want me to be honest. But it's just, it sucks to see that on the decline because that has been a huge positive. That's one of the reasons why the Penn State run game has been so good in the years. The offensive line has been improving, but it's the tight ends on the edge. Just fantastic blocking. We got to get back. Ty Hell's got to get that group back. Before we get into the defense, I want to say this. Peacock, you should be ashamed of yourself for charging any money for your service. That is truly, I have watched high school football games online that had better production than what you had. This is not a shot at Mike Robb. Love Mike Robb, did a fantastic job. Their mics were off at the beginning. There were multiple times where the flag icon just came up and there was no flag. There was like the scoreboard was glitching at times. How many times were we going to get a close-up of the quarterback as the ball was being snapped? There was many a times we're watching a replay and they cut back to the live feed and it's like halfway through the start of a play. Horrible. Everybody should be refunded their money. I'm sorry that you had to watch that, and please don't put us on Peacock again. My God. Guess we got to win some more games. All right, Penn State's defense. Before we get into the details of where this struggling is, the biggest issue is the defense just can't get off the field. And that's a theme that's been happening for 3-4 weeks at this point. Oregon, you're in overtime now if you're Penn State. You scored first. You just need one stop, and the game is over. You win. Oregon obviously scores a touchdown, but they score touchdowns on back-to-back plays, and we know how that one ends. Versus Northwestern, you need one stop. Penn State's up 5. Get off the field, you win. 12-play touchdown drive. Versus Iowa, you need a stop to ice the game, finish it off. 2 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. The defense just has fundamental issues right now. Watching the tape, there was probably at least 5 times where I said, whose gap is that? I'm watching, I'm like, whose gap? Whose B gap is that? And sometimes I can't even fully tell who's wrong because it's just so jumbled up and messed up. Gap integrity is one of the most important things that a defense can have, and Penn State is really struggling with it right now. And then like personnel and formation-wise, there is also issues just popping up across the board. So multiple times, Iowa comes out in 12 personnel. 12 personnel, the 1 in 12 means 1 running back. The 2 in 12 means 2 tight ends. So that's a heavy set. Anytime you got 2 tight ends on the ball, heavy set. There was at least 2 times I saw where Keon Wiley, who was 225 pounds, is playing a stand-up 5 technique, meaning that the 5 technique is basically where the defensive end is, like right next to the offensive tackle, and just getting washed, just getting taken down. Because, like I said, I mean, do you expect him to hold his own there at 225 pounds against taking on a combo block from a tackle and a tight end at 225 pounds in a stand-up stance? Not being put in positions to succeed. That is the reoccurring theme. Yes, there is execution problems, but it all starts with your coaches putting you in places where you can flourish, and that's not really happening on either side of the ball right now. Because of some of these formations and things that Knowles is doing, I've seen multiple times a 180-pound cornerback is being asked to be the force player. The force player is the contained player, meaning that he has to force everything back inside. And a lot of times the force player has to take on a pulling guard or a pulling tight end. Do you want a 180-pound cornerback, tiny Davian Collins, that constantly having to be setting the edge? Not a recipe for success. I don't get that. And it's clear watching this defense over the past couple of weeks especially. And I don't know where it all went wrong. Like it was decent up to Oregon. Obviously, you played 3 offenses that were not very good early on in the year, but it looked a lot better. And it just seems like they're not confident in the scheme. And they don't know where they should be at times, or if they maybe do, they're hesitant at where they should be going or what their responsibility is. That's inexcusable. Now, we're not in the meetings, so we don't know if this is a Knowles issue or if this is a player's issue. But what I can tell you is if your players are not playing at 100% speed as a coach, that is on you to simplify it. Like, you have to fix that. If you are MAing and your guys can't play at 100% confidence, they can't play at 100% speed, and you're going to lose football games. Next part, pass rush, non-existent. There is no pass rush coming from Penn State right now. And something that I really dislike that we're doing a lot of is the stunts. Stunts are where you see guys, one guy going in, another guy looping around. And every time you see like the loop, that's a stunt. You're wondering why, hey, Zane Durant isn't really getting home for any sacks this year. Well, he's doing a ton of stunts. Oh, it's almost like every other pass play we are calling a stunt. And it's generally not a recipe for success if you have to do that. Because if I know that you are constantly running a stunt as an offensive line, it's actually pretty easy to pick up. It becomes hard to pick up stunts when you don't expect them. If you know they're coming as an offensive line, speaking as an offensive lineman, it's pretty easy. It's actually easier than anything else because you're giving us time. Because someone has to someone has to be the penetrator. Think about how long it takes to be, a 3 technique and loop all the way around. That gives me time as an offensive lineman to, I'm going to shuffle over and pick that thing up. Stunts should be a changeup. Stunts should not be your fastball. And let's talk O-line, D-line right here. Pass rush is an art. It is a rhythm. You have to be in a rhythm. Just like a quarterback has to get in rhythm. We were talking about that earlier. As a pass rusher, you have to get in rhythm. If you are constantly in these stunts and you're not able to just work different pass rush moves, and part of it is setting things up. Okay, the last 2 pass rushes, I gave this guard this move. I kept giving him the same move. I'm going to fake that I'm giving him the same move, and boom, I'm going to work something else and try to catch him lacking because that's what he's going to expect. You can't do that if you're constantly running stunts because you are forced to, hey, I'm having to loop around or do this or do that. That's a problem. And that was something that I watched on tape at Ohio State from Knowles that I wasn't a big fan of how much they run stunts. I just think we need to get away from that. We need to simplify this defense as a whole. And I said this before, it's harder to see on defense because you're able to tell more on offense when someone is, too cute is what we call it. But this defense is too cute. It's way too cute. The defensive ends also are not getting home, and it doesn't seem like they really have any pass rush moves. It's a lot of just like bull rush, just putting 2 hands on, and not like a well-executed bull rush, just like I'm just going to go put 2 hands on you, or just work just like a very basic rip move, or not even just literally just put your arm like this and try to bend the corner. Not really doing much. I told you guys I was worried about this year. I said it all preseason that we do not have an elite edge rusher. And it's the first time in a long time that Penn State hasn't had a truly an elite edge rusher. Chaz Coleman, I think, is the most skilled edge rusher on this team. Only 11 snaps over the past 2 games for him. I don't know what happened there. I think Ivan Kemaju is actually getting more snaps than him. We need a pass rusher to step up and be a guy. I think we got to see more Chaz Coleman versus Ohio State. I don't know the reason as to why he's not really playing that much. But as I said, he is the most talented. We got to see him out there. Now, I did mention Ivan Kemaju, number 99, had a couple really nice TFLs. Looks pretty twitched up. I like how he was knifing inside. He was getting vertical, and then he was disrupting that Iowa run game. So really good stuff from him. But outside of those couple TFLs that they racked up, this run defense had a long day. Iowa, 33 rushes, 245 yards, 7.4 yards per carry. I did a whole breakdown on the offensive line. I told you it was going to be a little bit of an issue. And a couple of things we talked about earlier was the gap integrity, not putting guys in position for success. But it was also just getting beat. It was just them being better than our guys. Our defensive tackles were getting moved up front. Zane Durant, Alonzo Ford, Owen Wafel really struggled when he was in the game. The combo, they were just taking our defensive tackles 3 to 4 yards up the field. And anytime you do that as a linebacker, you're killing me if I'm a linebacker. If my defensive tackle is basically being put in my lap, I got issues as a linebacker. And so that doesn't put them in a good place. And the linebackers are already struggling as it is. Dom DeLuca, Amari Campbell struggling with block shedding we call that block destruction, getting off the blocks. Those offensive linemen are getting hands on them, and they're twisting them whichever way they want. And it was just creating some huge cavities for that Iowa run game because you're absolutely just taking these defensive tackles off the ball, and then they're getting up on the linebackers. And the Iowa run game is just chewing away, saying, yeah, we're going to just chug away at this defense. Honestly, I was surprised they started to pass the ball a little bit early on because they were just taking our rushing defense for a complete ride. So, I mean, part of that is you just have to be more stout at the point of attack. But I think part of it, too, is like personnel-wise, we don't have that 320-pound defensive tackle that we really need. I think that's something to continue to look at. Now, this front seven, linebackers, defensive tackles, defensive ends, they're doing a lot of slanting and stunting, and we've talked about that. And anytime you do that, you got to replace those gaps. The guy that's slanting away, well, someone's got to come in and fill that gap for him, and it's not being done correctly a lot of the time. And so then that puts a strain on the defensive backs where they have to go and make a tackle, and they're the last line of defense. If you get past them, as we saw, it's some huge gains. So I counted 10 missed tackles from the defense as a whole. I'm pretty sure 9 of them were from all the DBs. And anytime you had DBs having missed tackles, that generally spells some issues for a defense and the explosive play battle right there. So I do want to give a shout out to Zakee Wheatley. Came down, made some really good tackles all day long. He's doing everything he can. Obviously, great one-handed interception. That was really fun to see. What it felt like is that ball hawk finally back in action. But it's hard. It's not easy to play safety with a front seven that is just in complete disarray right now. So there needs to be a simplification of this defense over the bye week. You have time. Take advantage of this bye week. Take some time to say, if you're Terry Smith, we got 5 games left. You're playing for your pride at this point. You're playing to try to get to a bowl game. I don't know how much as I said, these guys are giving great effort, and they're going to continue to. I can feel it. I don't know how much you want to go to a bowl game if I'm a player on this team. Like, it's kind of like I want this nightmare to get over. Like, I'm going to give it everything, but I kind of want this nightmare of a season to end. But you got to find a way, if you're Terry Smith, on both sides of the ball. How can we simplify this so our players can best execute? That is what needs to be said to Jim Knowles and Andy Kotelnicki. Make this easier for them. Allow them to go out, do the simple things, and then we can build from there. That is how you handle this thing, because you need to get guys back to playing fast and playing confident. 2 most important things to do in football is to have confidence and play at 100% speed, and that is where we are lacking a little bit right now. All right, before we go, some people might laugh at this, but shout out to Ryan Barker. Has had a really good year, 26 out of 26 on extra points and 11 for 12 on field goals. Only miss was like 55 yards, maybe something like that. So that's been a bright spot this year. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is everything. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, film breakdown, Ethan Grunkemeyer, tomorrow morning will be out on my channel. Show you guys what we're getting for the rest of the year, and maybe will he be the quarterback moving forward in 2026. And then, of course, live call-in show, 7:30 p.m. tomorrow night. Be there or be square, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.